So I want to say hello to everyone again and welcome to today's webinar on Towards a New Phase in Shipping, hosted by YoungShip Turkey and ICS Turkey, together with ICS London, ICS Greece, Turk PNI, GAC, YoungShip Venezuela, and YoungShip France. I'm Sinem Ogis and I'm the president of YoungShip Turkey, and I want to say thank you, first of all of you, for taking time out and being here today. In today's webinar, as you might know, we'll be discussing various current and future trends of shipping, with focus on cruise, cargo, finance, insurance, ship agents, chartering, education, and technology. So I want to go for today's agenda for today's webinar. The webinar will be divided into 3 rounds. During the first round, we will be asking to each of our speakers their opinion of the current crisis in shipping and the way forward. And the second one will be asking to each of our speakers questions related to their specialized area. And during the last round, we'll be asking their advices to young generations, and we'll conclude the webinar by asking their opinions on the future of shipping. As you might know, or as you might recognize, we'll be running a live Q&A at the end of the webinar. So we have enabled Ask a Question feature. It's on the right-hand side of your screen in the auditorium. So if you have any questions, you can just pop them in there, or even if you would like, you can write it in the chat, but it's better if you put it in the Q&A so that it doesn't get lost in the chat. And as we said before, if you miss anything, don't worry, we'll be recording the webinar right now on YoungShip Turkey Facebook page, as well as YoungShip France Instagram page, on YouTube, as well as on MV Radio. Well, I think we can start it. I mean, without further ado, I will now turn the time over to Mr. Bahadir Tonguc, who's representing ICS Turkey. And I want to say once again, many thanks to him for cooperating with YoungShip Turkey. And after his welcoming speech, we will continue by introducing today's presenters, today's speakers, and then we shall begin our webinar. Mr. Bahadir Tonguc, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Sinem. First of all, maybe if we mute the idle microphones, it will be more comfortable. Well, you'd remember the day we decided to make this joint event. We were certain on making a cool event, but frankly, I was unsure about the convenience of the speakers we had in mind. All our great names, and I'm glad that they could all make it here. I would like to extend my warm welcome to our valuable speakers to this webinar, being co-hosted by YoungShip Turkey and Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, Turkey Development Branch. I do like talking and communicating and sharing my thoughts very much, observations and opinions as well. However, today I will try to talk less and give more space to our speakers without guarantee. It is a distinct honor to have such a fantastic panel here today. I hope that the audience will also enjoy the topics. Now over to you, Sinem. Thank you.
Sorry, I need to unmute myself. Thank you to you. So I would like now to start with introducing the speakers by starting from actually Mr. Bahadir Tonguc. Once again, thank you. Mr. Bahadir Tonguc started his career in 1997, and he had worked as a shipbroker in various shipment management companies, including Kalkavan Shipping and Bayraktar Shipping. He established Supermarket Shipping in 2007, and since then, the company is actively engaged in bulk, bare bulk, and project cargo shipments. He's also partner and senior lecturer of Martet Ltd, Maritime and Training Center of Istanbul. Martet is a recognized partner of the Institute of Charter Shipbrokers and the only authorized body in Turkey to provide training course for ICS examinations. Mr. Tonguc is a founding member of Shipbrokers Association of Turkey, where he served several terms as vice president. He is a member of the Propeller Club Port of Istanbul, where he is responsible of the shipping committee. He is a member of Binko Documentary Committee as well. Mr. Tonguc is a charter shipbroker, and he is the chairman of the Institute of Charter Shipbrokers Turkey Development Branch, whom, as I mentioned before, is the co-organizer of this event. Thank you once again, Mr. Bahadir, for being us with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sinem. I'm going to introduce now Mr. Nikos Marmatsouris, who represents GAC as the group's senior marketing manager, covering countries in East Mediterranean, Northern Africa, Balkan and Black Sea, as well as Russia and FSU countries. His shipping career began in London in 1983, working for the liner sales department of Foss Shipping. And in 1984, he moved to Athens to complete his military obligations with the Hellenic Navy, where he served 2 years at the bridge of a Ro-Ro landing type vessel. Then, before joining GAC, he worked as a marketing manager for Countship Container Lines Paris agency, Cisco, and Alpha Shipping. And then he studied, he studied business administration at London's Metropolitan University, and he's a fellow of Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, London. He holds the position of vice chairman at the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, Hellenic branch, and has also served as the chairman of ICS vetting committee and a member of the International Membership Committee. He's also an elected governor of the Propeller Club Port of Paris and an active or associate member at various shipping bodies like the Hellenic Shipbrokers Association, WISTA, Turkey, amongst others. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you. So, a very nice introduction. I am the one to break the ice and start today's discussion. I suppose there is not much to be said for what everybody has experienced over the last few months. We are living totally unprecedented times of a basic global meltdown or stop. Everything economy stopped, and most of the people I know of have been forced to work from home or even not to work at all. There was a very serious disruption in the logistic chain, so goods did not arrive at the destination to start with. And then, of course, there was a total lack of trade because people were not interested in buying or were not able to buy anything. And that very seriously affects shipping, and not only it affects energy, because we should not forget that the cars stopped moving, the airplanes stopped flying. So there was a total disruption in the oil supply and the oil markets in general, with very severe consequences on the oil prices and a huge volatility. And now that we are all coming to the fresh window, we are coming to a new world. Everybody speaks about coming back to normality, but what I believe is that all we are heading towards a totally new normality. It will not be the normality we've had before, in the way we greet, in the way we eat, in the way we're standing by each other. Of course, habits are stronger than anything, but I do believe that all this made surge of new technologies to come forward and be accelerated, like the digitalization of the Zoom. I mean, the guy who created the platform we are watching the webinar today became a billionaire in just a few months, because he invented something that created the need of people to get together, and the multitude of people being able to join this platform, of course, gave him a lot of advantage comparing to other systems. And then we've got other things that I'm going to come into detail later on. So please proceed to the next speaker.
Okay. Thank you so much for your words, Mr. Nikos, and for breaking the ice. Actually, it's true. We are now facing a new normality. It's like the things are not going to be as it used to. Well, now I'm going to present Mrs. Katerina Stathopoulou. Mrs. Katerina has a total working experience of 38 years, of which, of those 38 years, 34 have been in managerial positions in the fields of shipping, banking, and finance. Mrs. Katerina holds the position of Executive Director with Investments and Finance Ltd. The company is a financial consultancy firm dedicated in providing financial and investment advisory services to shipping and corporate clients with offices in Piraeus and London. The firm's main area of expertise is shipping, and since its inception in 1987, has been involved in financial transactions, raising bank debts, bonds, equity, and other hybrids for various maritime clients, as well as assisting in numerous restructuring and workout transactions. Mrs. Katerina started her career in shipping in 1985 as assistant of CFO for Athenian Sea Carriers, one of the traditional and prestigious Greek shipping groups, and continued into banking in 1992 as head of shipping finance for 2 Greek private banks. She was responsible also for setting up and developing their shipping loan portfolios. She was also credit committee member of these banks. Mrs. Katerina holds the position of governor of International Propeller Club, Port of Piraeus. She has also held the position of executive committee member of Vista International between 2012 and 2018. She's an active member of Vista Hellas, member of the Greek Shipping Bankers Association, advisory member of Blue Growth, advisory member of Young Executive Shipping Forum team, mentor to university graduates looking to develop their talents by pursuing a career in shipping. Welcome, Mrs. Katerina. It's a pleasure for us to have you today.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here with you today. Thank you for the invitation. Following Nikos's very nice summary of what has happened and where we are today, I would like to add that it's not the first time that shipping encounters rough seas. We are facing a world economic crisis, of course, and shipping is the industry directly related to world trade and economic stability. So, however, the industry has quick reflexes in crisis management and always has. It's not the first time. It reacts to crisis as being faced by an opportunity instead of a threat all these years. And my experience since the mid-'80s and the crisis of the '80s, I have seen that over time. Of course, we are in a different world today. Now, I always say, as I am the money lady, that shipping is a capital-intensive industry, but most importantly, it is a human capital-intensive industry. And I believe, among other things, that this is the area that has been most affected during this crisis. The opportunity, however, that has come out of all of this is that we have all realized, even the most suspicious and I would say adamant against technologies, that we have all realized that technology was the basis that made this crisis different from the previous ones. Because of technology, we were able to connect, stay connected with each other, and continue our work remotely while staying safe and healthy. And this webinar today is one of those big examples that we are now connected with Venezuela, France, Turkey, Greece, all around the world. And this is something that this crisis has brought forward. We would not be able to think of it as this being our new normal. So with this technology, it has been business as usual, only in a very different way, in a very different location. Now, we have also all realized that developing transferable skills and embracing lifelong learning is essential in a fast-changing business environment. Now, I am also a shipping finance lecturer in ICS Greek branch, and I meet up with a lot of young professionals, and I'm privileged to have done so and meet all of these people over these years. But preparing this young generation to cope with crisis and not just teach them the mechanics of the industry is, for me, what we need and what is the way forward. Being resilient in a crisis demands a set of skills that people who have been in the industry for 40 plus years are well aware. However, the 40-year-old young professionals today, mid-30s to mid-40s, this young generation that has been in this industry for about 20 years or less than that, has only been sailing in calm seas. So I believe that the way forward is to start embracing and teaching and mentoring and bringing forward and infusing our new generation with skills to cope crisis. The mechanics of an industry, we all learn, but coping with crisis requires certain skills that everybody. And I think this is what we need to build on. And of course, we can discuss this a little later as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maya, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Katerina. Thank you for also being part of the group of people that also support young professionals. It's very important to make sure that the next generations will be well studied and guided by people like you that have so many experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure for us.
Pleasure for that. We need to prepare you well. That is our task.
If our guys
bring forward the baton.
I'm sure we're gonna be well prepared. Well, I want to continue by introducing Jeffrey Blum. Thank you, Jeffrey, for being with us today as well. Jeffrey has been in shipping since 1973, the fourth generation of a shipping family, member of Belting Exchange since 1976, worked for owners, operators, charterers, and brokers, including Gasoil Features and UN Peacekeeping Forces Logistics for years. He founded his own company, Interlink International Trading UK Ltd, in 1994 to handle shipbroking and maritime commercial claims. He has lectures for Institute of Charter Shipbrokers and colleges, universities globally since 1984, including as visiting professor at World Maritime University and Shanghai Maritime University since 2007. He founded his private college, Maritime Education and Training Ltd, in 2002 to provide bespoke training, and also, until recently, weekly evening classes in central London for students preparing for 8 core exams of Institute of Charter Shipbrokers. He has served on several global committees of Institute memberships, controlling council, education officers, and on London and Southeast branch since 1983, of which he was a chairman between 2005 and 2007, and vice chairman again between the years 2015 and 2017, and education officer 2000 to date. He is also expert witnesses since 1983 for court and arbitration cases, and he's an arbitrator since 1994. And welcome, Jeffrey, once again. It's a pleasure for us to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sinem. It is my great pleasure and frankly honor to be part of this group. I'm delighted that I was invited by you and by my good friend Bahadir, whom I had the pleasure of seeing in Istanbul last August. And I have, as you've just been explaining to everybody else so kindly, I've been very much involved with the Institute for a heck of a long time. I became a fellow by examination in '79, and I've been very much involved with Institute matters since, as you said, 1983. And the Institute, frankly, runs through my veins. I'm very passionate about the professionalism of our institute, and frankly of people who are in our industry. I would suggest that first of all, I echo absolutely what Nico has said and also what Katerina has said, certainly, and obviously Bahadir's introduction. But apart from repeating what they have said, or at least echoing it, I would suggest that there are several words that we need to consider during these next roughly 2 hours of chat amongst ourselves. First of all, the word professionalism. We need to train youngsters, which I've been doing for rather a long time, in being professionals. It is very easy to think of yourself as a second-hand car salesman or perhaps an estate agent, and if you can put two people together to buy a car or buy an apartment or a house, then you can easily therefore also put them together to charter a ship or even to sell a cargo. That is not correct. Being a shipbroker and anybody else involved in our fascinating industry requires a heck of a lot more than simply being a good talker and having the ability to bring two people together. This is not a marriage bureau. This is a profession of shipbrokers involving port agents, law, owning, chartering, trading, understanding of this all. And for that reason, I've been passionate for very many years in training the young to do this. The training can perhaps be seen as a shortcut to 8 or 10 years of experience, but I think it's more than that. It also shows that you have committed yourself to the profession, that you are now qualified, certificated by the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers or perhaps other organizations. There is nothing quite like us, the Institute, globally, but there are other not quite similar organizations. And I also think that we should highlight the word global. This Zoom meeting with us all is emphasizing the fact that we can all come together, be together, talk together, although we're all in our individual homes, and with the exception of lovely Nico, we don't have that fabulous background behind us. But nevertheless, the point is that we are in a global industry. We're also very much in a service industry. Yes, ships are, of course, physical beings. You can buy and sell ships, and they are therefore, in that sense, a commodity. But shipping is basically a service industry. And what we have to do is serve our principals. That basically means cargo owners, and therefore charterers, in a truly professional global way. I would add one last word, which is obvious from what we're looking at now, all of us on the screen, and that is that shipping and shipbroking in particular is very much not only a professional and a global industry, but also very much a people business. And we come together often as individuals who don't yet know each other, and we walk away from, very often, just from the first meeting, as friends. And I have a number of friends globally whom I've met through work, who have become really good personal friends over many years. I think that's important to stress as well.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for your input. I think I totally agree, especially the points where you're talking about professionalism, to really have a good training in whatever job actually that you're doing. It has to be really well prepared. Well, I want to say once again, thank you for you being here with today. And I'm sure we're going to have a great webinar today. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I'm going to introduce Paola Velasco from Venezuela. Paola is an accountant finalizing postgraduate studies in shipping business. Her 10 years experience in the maritime industry have been in the administrative and operational areas in shipping companies, and nowadays she performs in the commercial area at Firnlays de Venezuela. And she's an active member and the General Secretary of YoungShip Venezuela. Thank you very much, Paola, for being with us. If you have, we can.
Thank you for the presentation.
What is your?
Do you hear me all?
Yes, perfectly well. What is your opinion? What is your input concerning the crisis? How it changes everything, like for you in your field, educational field?
Well, hello everyone. Many thanks for the invitation. I feel pleased to share this conference with such nourishing panelists. Thank you. For sure, I will be answering these questions later on when, with all the panelists, I think. I don't know if we are starting right now, or is this just a presentation?
No, it was just if you wanted to, if you had something to add, like to Jeffrey's or Katerina's, but otherwise
No.
we will develop everything. We have time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, we really are going to be talking about education and, for example, how the people has overcome in a certain way all this situation that we are facing right now with the outbreak, and another points that I'll be sharing along the presentation. But for sure, we are trying hard, really hard, to find new ways about how to cope with all this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Paola. Thank you, Ansam. I'm going to introduce now to Mr. Aret Tasciyan. His marine insurance career started in JW Whitehall & Co. Ltd. in 1976 as Pandy Club correspondent and Lloyd's agency. He took part in the establishment of the Chamber of Shipping and was one of the first founder members of its assembly. He represented Turkish Chamber of Shipping and International Chamber of Shipping in 1980s. He started as marine broking activities in early 1981s, and he has pioneered in establishing direct contact between Turkish ship owners and overseas marine underwriters. Invited underwriters from USA, Scandinavia, France, Italy, and London for the first time to meet and get acquainted with the Turkish ship owners. He then moved to USA in 1991 to start the marine operations of a reinsurance broker and managed Jardine Insurance Brokers' New York office until he joined forces with Omni in 2000. One of his main accomplishments was the establishment of Turk Pandy in 2013 in partnership with 3 state-owned insurance companies. Turk Pandy is the only Turkish insurance company who has write Pandy risks for up to $1 billion liability limit and is one of its uniquest examples around the world. Welcome, Mr. Aret. A pleasure to have you today.
Mr. Aret, you're on mute. Sorry.
Thank you, Sinem.
Okay, now you can hear me, I think. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Good afternoon or good evening to all participants who are virtually following us online and to our valuable participants. Special thanks goes to Sinem and Bahadir on behalf of YoungShip and Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers for arranging this event. Frankly speaking, when I was first approached by Sinem inviting me to take part in the panel, I momentarily thought that there had been an inflation of webinars and interviews online during the COVID-19 lockdown. I myself have written 3 COVID-related articles in the last 2 months, but when I have seen the panelists, then I immediately changed my mind and that said that this is going to be a different event than all the others. Shipping and shipping-related insurance markets had already been experiencing one of their worst periods over the last decades when this pandemic burst out. Freight markets in general, particularly bulk carriers, were crawling with rates below running costs and OPEXs, and insurance premium were at record high level due to limited underwriting capacity in London. I will leave to comment on where shipping was before the pandemic and where it is now and what's being expected for the freight market to the expert members of the panel, and we'll try to concentrate on how marine insurance markets were affected. We are mainly talking about a Holland machinery insurance market that have been losing money over the last 19 years in a row. This has forced over 20 insurance companies and syndicates to close their doors to Holland machinery in London market. This was the situation before the pandemic or COVID-19 penetrated our life. Then, all of a sudden, we have been introduced to COVID-19 and understood how incapable we were in fighting against the virus. The same precautions that the world had taken during the Spanish flu 100 years ago were being applied in 21st century. Wash hands, cover your face, social distancing. Could not do anything else than that. The whole world was so helpless. Lloyd's of London closed its doors for the first time in its 370 years history. This world had 2 world wars. We had Spanish flu. We had other pandemics. Lloyd's did not close even for 1 day. Now, for the first time, its doors are still closed. In short, we're going to go into the details later on in any case, but COVID-19 spread have deteriorated the bleeding wounds of already painful shipping and marine insurance markets. So far, let me give the word to the other participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aret, for your input. We just want to tell to our attendees that Mr. Aret needs to leave a little bit early. So during the webinar, if you have any questions for him, you can start to write in the Q&A. So before he leaves, we are going to take your questions addressed to Mr. Aret. Okay, thank you. So, it's now the time to introduce Jean-Francois Suhas. Jean graduated from French Maritime Academy and is elected president of the Marseille Province Cruise Club on March the 9th of 2015. During his career, he travels all around the world on board Paquet and Club Mediterranean cruise ships. And in 1999, he joins Marseille Foss Plot Station, of which he is General Secretary from 2011 to 2015. He is elected at Marseille Province Chamber of Commerce, and he contributes to the promotion of Marseille Port Authority's operations. He aims at creating a beacon of excellence made in Marseille, thanks to the great development of maritime and river cruises, with shipbuildings, operations, and ship repair of the world's largest cruise ships. Mr. Suhas is one of the local experts on the blue economy and the energy transition matter, especially in the maritime sector. He's strongly engaged and participates to all of the projects and meetings regarding the strategic issues to ensure Marseille Province competitiveness, and the port is still on the company's routes in the next decades, no matter what is their source of energy. Thank you, Mr. Suhas, for being with us here today. Mr. Suhas, you're on mute. Sorry.
Excuse me, after now 3 months of, I still forgotten some time to put the mic. Then thanks so much to be with you. And I'm really honored also and proud. And one of my highlights, because I don't prepare this question, I prepare something for the other round, but I don't realize that. But I will just give you some words about my experience as a pilot. I'm still a pilot, and every 2 weeks, 1 week on, 1 week off, I'm working on a ship, and I meet a lot of sailors, a lot of ships from everywhere around the world. And there is 2 points I want to share with them, because we are discussing with young people, and Katerina, Aret, there's some we are not so we are still young, but not so young. And I need to give some hopes, because it's very important to have always a new generation involved in our industry, because it's a lovely industry. But and for example, for our coaching as a pilot and our training, there is all the skills, all the operational problem, but as a private company. I always explain to my young colleague, and I am now 54 years old, and we have some young people, young pilots, they arrived in the profession like me 20 years ago, as a 30 or 32 years old. And of course, the last 10 years was very positive in Marseille. We have a lot of traffic, especially we doubled the number of cruise ships. We have 2 million now, and we have a lot of good opportunity. But always you tell them, take care, because in our history, and the Marseille port is 2,600 of history, it's always peak and up and down. And of course, this down, it's incredible. As Aret said, it's a big down, for sure. Nobody can say that it's something just a little things, but for sure, and we see already in the last weeks, for example, for the Marseille traffic, we have, it seems that we have the bottom, not for the cruise ship, of course, they are still at zero, but the other part of the traffic then is already increasing and becoming a little more normal. When you say that, you said it because it's a human story only. Of course, pandemic, especially in Marseille, we have a lot of, things like this about the story with a disaster, and there is a lot of culture of this pandemic. And the other thing I was thinking to explain to you, just in introducing it, there is so much sailor now. They are still on the ship. They have, some of them, they have no more salary. Some of them, they have very bad conditions. And our industry has to realize that it's a human industry. As Katerina said before, we have this human capital is the most important. And what we do this evening to share our experience, of course, you are entering this this industry, and we have the speakers are leaving this industry, but we are still this chain and this connection between the sea, and it's incredible in our industry. There is so much opportunities to have great job, even if you don't go at sea. But never forget, there is some people we need at sea as a sailor, etc. This is the chain, and of course, in this case, when something with a very big storm, we know that even if the weather will be better in the next week, there is still some people about now still in the storm. Then we have to think about all these people and to make something when we can in the port, in our company, etc., etc. It was the 2 point what I said, because we have still hope, and I'm sure that in the next months it will be better, even for the cruise industry, because it is the most impacted now, by this pandemic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jean-Francois. You don't know, maybe you don't know him, but he's like a rock star here. Jean-Francois, you see him everywhere on TV, radios, and he's really an expert in his field. And actually, just before our webinar, he was also speaking in another webinar about the cooperation between the ports of Morocco and Marseille, and how they dealt with the COVID before and after, and what changes, and all very, very interesting webinar that lasted more than it was expected. So I'm very happy that you could join us tonight. So thank you very much. Now I'm going to introduce our fantastic Sinem. Sinem obtained her LLB at Yazar University, Izmir in Turkey in 2013, where she triumphed as third ranked. And afterwards, she continued her studies at the University of Southampton in the field of maritime law. She had successfully finished her LLM with the dissertation on powership in 2014. Then she was employed as a research assistant at the University of Augsburg in Germany on insurance law department. She is also a qualified lawyer in Turkey, And at a later stage, she worked as a visiting researcher for a month period at the University of Dubai. And lately, she was working for a period of 2 months at the University of Gasushuin in Japan. Sorry for the pronunciation. She has completed her last research on marine exclusion clauses within a comparative approach between Japanese law and Turkish law. And at the moment, she's working as an associate at Ogis law firm, her family boutique law firm. And her interest covers shipping and trade industries, including admiralty, various international sale contracts, cargo claims, marine insurance, international litigation, and conflict of laws, carriage of goods by sea, as well as letters of credits. She is also the president of YoungShip Turkey, as well as a representative of Young BPW Maidens Tower Turkey, and a member of WISTA Turkey. And she's also the current organizer of the 26th AYLH Forum. And thank you so much for organizing this fantastic event, Sinem. Thank you a lot for all your efforts.
Thank you to all of you to be part of today's webinar. I mean, it's fantastic to see all the specialized, all the professionals in their field to be here today. And it's fantastic to moderate this webinar with you all. And I'm once again want to express my thankfulness, my gratefulness to all of you. Thank you.
Well, as Ansam was saying, thank you, Sinem, because you have been working very, very hard for this to happen. So it's a pleasure for us to give you a piece of our time and our effort to support you and help you. Well, now I will be introducing my dear colleague, Ansam. She's a French lawyer registered at the Marseille Bar. So I don't know if I'm okay with the pronunciation, French pronunciation, and is admitted to intervene before all French courts. She holds a master's degree in maritime transport law from the University Paul Cézanne in Aix-en-Provence, France. She has been working at Delviso Advocats for 8 years, advising and handling litigation in all matters in connection with the maritime practice. Delviso Advocats is an international law firm which offices in Paris, Marseille, and Ajaccio, Corsica, and a regional office in Douala, Cameroon. Delviso Advocats is specialized in maritime law, transport law, insurance law, business law, and international trade law. In 2018, she co-founded YoungShip France. She's also a member of WISTA France and a board member in the International Association of Young Lawyers. Welcome, dear Ansam.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So I want to continue by introducing our last moderator, Maria Laura Salazar. Maria Laura is a Venezuelan lawyer. She's currently at the final stage of a specialization in international trade, major maritime law, and studying with the Association of Shipbrokers and Agents, ASBA. She has developed her professional career in a variety of fields in maritime industry, since legal issues up to compliance of international regulations and the management of business and commercial relationships. She has held different positions in shipping companies as marine management of Venezuela company that provided services to Greeks owners companies as Dynacom Tankers Ltd, Sea Pioneer Company, and Spring Marine SA and BSM, a Schultz Group company Venezuela branch. At the moment, she is currently the legal advisor of a group of naval surveyors and DST charters and shipbrokers group. She is professor at the Caribbean Maritime University with the subject Environmental Challenges, and also founder, member, and vice president of YoungShip Venezuela and president of the Communications Committee of WISTA Venezuela. Thank you again, Maria Laura, for accepting to be part of this webinar as YoungShip Venezuela.
Oh, thank you so much for your introduction, dear Sinem. Now, for all the participants, please know that you are all invited to participate in our poll, which is already available. And we want to know in which field are you working: legal, insurance, finance, chartering, education, cruise, ports, ship operations. Well, we can continue now with my colleague, Ansam.
Well, I just wanted to have Bahadir's opinion because we are missing his opinion about how this crisis affected shipping.
Ansam, very kind of you. I will cut it very short because I don't have so much to say. Just we have all seen that the relatively comfortable individuals and the companies are the ones who benefited from their devotion to discipline, professional way of working, ethics, principles, teamwork, cost management, their network, and most importantly, their earlier investments into relations with their clients. Just like Jeffrey emphasized, you cannot buy a motorcycle and then learn how to drive it. Instead, you first learn to drive, then you buy the asset. It is that. And everyone is wondering what is happening within or after this COVID. I don't know as well. You would know that Hegel wrote The Owl of Minerva. It spreads its wings only with the falling of the dusk. Let's wait and see where we are heading. It's not the dusk yet, so I don't know. But if you let me, I have a very small question to Jean-Francois. I have a huge photo of the lovely Abbé Bourbon, the famous firefighting tank. A shot by my famous photographer, Philippe Plisson, is hanging on my wall. Is she in Marseille now? Can I ask Jean-Francois, please, before we carry on?
Philippe Plisson is living in Brittany. He's coming in Marseille. It was here, strangely, 1 month ago when we have the fleet of Ponant Cruise coming back to Marseille. They make some picture with him by helicopters, by drone, because he's one of the best sea photographers in the world. Yeah, it was in Marseille, but he's not living in Marseille. He's living, if I remember, somewhere in the northwest of France. But he's coming very often in Marseille.
Thank you so much, Jean-François. Merci beaucoup.
So we are waiting our attendees to participate into the poll. How many minutes they have in general? Maria? You're on mute.
How many? We can maybe start a little bit the second round and come back.
Yeah, I think so. So I will now start with the second round, asking all our speakers questions in their field, and I would like to start with Mr. Bahadir. Mr. Bahadir, could you please share your foresights and expectations about new normals in chartering and shipbroking? Thank you.
As much as I can. Thank you, Sinem. Well, I believe that we have to turn information into knowledge and knowledge into intelligence, quickly and effectively. I will try to express my opinions in several topics, including telecommuting, merit-based systems, and new tools of chartering, as simple as possible. Thanks to the lockdown, we were forced to test telecommuting earlier than planned in such a coordinated and simultaneous fashion. We could have not simulated it globally without an external force like an epidemic. You would all agree that shipbrokers can simply perform their duties remotely. And this should never mean that I'm supporting individual supply in shipbroking. I have always supported organizational structures and intrapreneurship. While working remotely, at least you save the commuting time. It may save you a lot of time if you are living and working in a crowded city like Istanbul. In the contrary, the concerns are real. It is an inevitable fact that distractions and interruptions can compromise employees' performance. And how we will establish minimum requirements of a proper working environment. I will not go to the very known details. The question is, do you live in a big city to work here or work in a big city to live here? If you ask me, I like living and working in a big city because usually there is the absence of comfortable infrastructure and recreational facilities in smaller towns. But the people who got stuck in the big and expensive cities only because of their jobs will most likely choose to migrate from urban areas to suburbs or rural areas. We may observe an escalated suburbanization or even deurbanization in the near future. And migration from the city would cause a demographic shift, hence a social change, maybe. This is something serious, perhaps beneficial, but serious. Some downsides of remote working can be, of course, bring the cybersecurity risks. However, you can get over with such risks with conscious behaviors. After all, you know that the computers are not toys. A bigger concern could be that the remotely working juniors may be unable to benefit longer interaction with their seniors, and this would cause poor transfer of experience. This is bad if the senior is an educated and competent one, but this is good if the senior is an overrated person. I will come back to this issue later on if you'll have time. Eventually, employers and team leaders should aim to promote the real role of ethical behavior and should minimize surveillance, the monitoring of the employees. On the other side, since last few years, with the further implementation of technology into our profession, we have been working through the inevitable paradigm shift in chartering and merit-based systems. Shipping is a derived demand, where service supplier selection is crucial. We have been observing that the human-based systems are shifting to hybrid systems, where humans are working with algorithms. Because cognitive bias is unavoidable without a computer algorithm, the risk of subjective decisions and biased human evaluations can only be managed by multi-criteria decision-making. This is based on sub-clustering. It's the technical part. But ship owners and charterers should choose their brokers according to their relative abilities, knowledge, and skills. This is the safe and healthy way. Ship owners and charterers should also choose each other while mitigating bias in human decision-making, again by algorithmic techniques. Very much interconnected with establishment of merit-based systems, electronic chartering platforms and virtual chartering markets may gain confidence and acknowledgement in the future. The algorithms where such platforms are based, they are worthless without qualified data inside of them. This means they have to have more ship positions, more serious cargoes, and so forth. And coming to ship brokers, the human being, if you ask me, a ship broker have two major functions, social and technical. The artificial intelligence-based chartering platforms today can partly imitate a ship broker's social function, which is connecting the ship owner and the charter to each other. However,